What happens when two brothers who once shared everything find themselves on opposite sides of a television studio, with millions watching as their carefully constructed public facades begin to crumble today? We're diving into one of the most explosive moments in recent royal history, when Prince Harry appeared on The View, and everything went catastrophically wrong. Make sure to subscribe and drop a comment below, because this story has twists you won't see coming. The atmosphere in The View studio was electric. That morning, Prince Harry had arrived for what was supposed to be a routine promotional interview for his latest charitable initiative. The hosts were prepared with their usual mix of softball questions and light controversy. Nothing too challenging after all. This was meant to be a feel-good segment about his work with veterans and mental health advocacy. Whoopi Goldberg opened the segment with her trademark warmth. We're thrilled to have Prince Harry with us today. You've been incredibly busy with your foundation work, and I know our viewers are eager to hear about your latest projects. Harry, appearing relaxed in his navy blazer and open collar shirt, leaned forward slightly. Thank you for having me, Whoopi. It's always a pleasure to be here. The work we're doing with veterans who are struggling with PTSD and mental health challenges is incredibly close to my heart. As you know, Joy Behar jumped in with her characteristic directness. Speaking of things close to your heart, how are you handling all the media attention around your family relationships? It seems like every week there's a new headline. Harry's smile tightened almost imperceptibly. Well, Joy, I think anyone who's been through family challenges understands that healing takes time. What's important to me is focusing on the positive impact we can make in the world. Sarah nodded sympathetically. That's such a mature perspective. Your brother William has also been very active in mental health advocacy. Have you two been able to collaborate on any projects recently? The question hung in the air for a moment longer than comfortable. Harry's jaw tensed slightly before he responded. William and I have always shared a commitment to service. We each have our own paths now, our own priorities and focuses. Alyssa, Farrah Griffin, sensing an opportunity, pressed gently, but surely there's room for both of your voices in this space. Your mother's legacy seems to inspire both of your charitable works. My mother believed in speaking truth to power. Harry said, his voice carrying a slight edge that hadn't been there moments before. She believed in protecting those who couldn't protect themselves, even when it meant challenging the system from within. Whoopi, recognizing the shift in energy, tried to steer back to safer ground. Your work with the Invictus Games has been extraordinary. Can you tell us about the upcoming games and what they mean to you? Harry's demeanor softened slightly as he spoke about the veterans sporting event he founded. The Invictus Games represent everything I believe in, the idea that our perceived limitations don't define us. These men and women have sacrificed so much, and they deserve our unwavering support, not just when it's convenient or popular. Sonny Austin, who had been quietly observing, chose that moment to ask Harry, there's been a lot of speculation about your relationship with the institution of the monarchy. How do you balance your personal convictions with your royal heritage? The question was perfectly crafted, innocuous enough to seem reasonable, but pointed enough to potentially provoke. Harry paused, his fingers drumming once against his knee. I think anyone who knows me understands that I've never been one to stay quiet when I see injustice or when I see people being hurt by systems that are supposed to protect them. Joy leaned forward. Are you saying the monarchy is a system that hurts people? I'm saying that no institution is above criticism or improvement. Harry replied, his voice growing stronger. My grandmother dedicated her life to service, and I believe the best way to honor her memory is to ensure that service actually serves people, not just preserves outdated traditions. The tension in the studio was becoming palpable. Camera operators adjusted their positions slightly, sensing that something significant was building. The audience, initially relaxed and chatty, had grown noticeably quieter. Alyssa followed up. There have been reports of disagreements between you and William about the direction of royal duties and public service. How do you respond to suggestions that you've been critical of his approach? Harry's eyes flashed. I would never criticize my brother personally, but I will always speak up when I see opportunities being missed, when I see platforms being used for photo opportunities instead of real change. Whoopi tried once more to redirect. Let's talk about your upcoming projects. What can our viewers expect to see from you in the coming months, but Joy wasn't ready to let go. Harry, before we move on, I have to ask, there are rumors that you and William had a heated exchange recently about your public statements. Can you address that? Harry's composure cracked slightly. I'm not going to discuss private family conversations on television. Joy, but I will say this, if people in positions of privilege and power aren't willing to use those positions to create meaningful change, then what's the point of having them? I try to lighten the mood. I think what our viewers really want to know is whether there's hope for reconciliation. Family, after all, of course, there's hope, Harry said, but his tone suggested otherwise. There's always hope when people are willing to have honest conversations about difficult truths. The question is whether everyone involved is ready for that level of honesty. Honey pressed further. What would those honest conversations look like? What truths do you think need to be addressed? Harry looked directly into the camera, his voice steady but intense. The truth about how the media is used as a weapon. The truth about how certain people are protected while others are thrown to the wolves. The truth about what really matters, protecting your family or protecting your image. The studio fell completely silent. Even the usually chatty audience seemed to sense they were witnessing something unprecedented. Whoopi glanced at her producers off camera, recognizing that they had moved far beyond the plan. Interview territory. Elisa, perhaps not fully grasping the magnitude of what Harry had just implied, asked the question that would change everything. Harry, are you suggesting that your brother has chosen image over family? Harry's response would shatter whatever remained of royal protocol and family diplomacy. I'm suggesting that actions speak louder than titles, and that some people seem to have forgotten what our mother actually stood for. The words hung in the air like a bomb waiting to explode. Harry's reference to what their mother actually stood for had crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. The hosts exchanged glances, realizing they were witnessing something that would dominate headlines for weeks. Joy, never one to back down from controversy, leaned in further. Harry, that's a pretty serious accusation. Are you saying your brother has forgotten your mother's values? Harry's hand clenched slightly in his lap. I'm saying that Diana, Princess of Wales, never shied away from difficult conversations. She never chose comfort over truth. She never threw family members under the bus to protect her own reputation. Whoopi attempted damage control. Harry, I think we should be careful about making this too personal. Too personal. Harry's voice rose slightly. Whoopi, this became personal the moment certain people decided that my wife and children were acceptable casualties in their public relations war. Sunny host, sensing the explosive nature of what was unfolding, asked carefully, what you mean by acceptable casualties? I mean the calculated leaks to the press. I mean the refusal to correct false stories when they knew the truth. I mean standing by while lies were printed about the people I love most in this world. Harry's voice was steady but filled with barely contained fury. Alyssa tried to interject, but surely your brother wouldn't knowingly allow false stories about your family. Harry let out a bitter laugh. Wouldn't he? Ask yourself this. When have you ever seen him issue a correction when the story made him look good and us look bad? When has he ever used his influence, the media, to protect anyone but himself? The audience was completely silent, now hanging on every word. Camera operators were getting reaction shots of the stunned hosts, knowing they were capturing television. Gold. Joy pressed on Harry. These are serious allegations. You're essentially accusing future King of England of orchestrating a campaign against you and your family. I'm not accusing anyone of anything, Harry replied, his voice tight with control. I'm simply stating facts. The media doesn't operate in a vacuum. Stories don't appear without sources. Protection doesn't happen accidentally. Sarah tried to offer a diplomatic out. Maybe there's been some miscommunication or misunderstanding between you and William. Harry's response was immediate and sharp. There's no misunderstanding about throwing your own brother to the wolves to protect your precious reputation. There's no misunderstanding about choosing the institution over flesh and blood. That's when it happened. The studio door opened, and Prince William walked in unannounced. The entire room seemed to freeze as the heir to the throne strode purposefully toward the interview area. His face was a mask of controlled anger, his jaw set in a way that anyone who knew the royal family would recognize as dangerous. Hello, Harry. William said, his voice carrying the weight of decades of shared history and recent betrayal. I thought it was time we had this conversation properly." The hosts were speechless. This wasn't planned, wasn't scheduled, and certainly wasn't what anyone had expected from what was supposed to be a simple promotional interview. Security personnel looked confused, caught between protocol and the unprecedented situation of two senior royals facing off on live television. Harry's face went pale, then flushed red. "William, what are you doing here? What am I doing here?" William's voice was controlled, but ice cold. "I'm here because apparently this is the only way to get through to you anymore, since you prefer to have family conversations on American television rather than picking up the phone." Whoopi tried to maintain some semblance of control. "Your Royal Highness, we weren't expecting you. This is quite unprecedented." William turned to her with a practiced smile that didn't reach his eyes. "I apologize for the intrusion, Whoopi, but when my brother decides to air our family's private business on national television, I felt it was important to provide some context." Harry stood up abruptly, his chair rolling back. "Context? Is that what you call it? William, you have no right to be here." "I have every right," William replied, stepping closer. "I have the right that comes from being attacked by my own brother on live television. I have the right that comes from watching you destroy everything our grandmother built with your public tantrums." The tension between the brothers was electric. Years of resentment, hurt, and miscommunication were bubbling to the surface in front of millions of viewers. Joy Behar, showing remarkable restraint for perhaps the first time in her career, remained silent, recognizing that anything she said might interrupt the most dramatic royal confrontation in modern history. Harry's voice rose. "Public tantrums? Is that what you call standing up for my wife and children? Is that what you call refusing to be your scapegoat anymore? My scapegoat?" William's composure finally cracked. "Harry, everything I've done has been to protect this family, to protect the institution that our grandmother devoted her entire life to building. And what have you done? You've torn it down piece by piece. And for what? For Hollywood celebrity, for American television contracts, for the truth." Harry shot back. "For the right to tell my story without your permission, for the right to protect my family the way I wish someone had protected our mother." The mention of their mother hit William like a physical blow. "Don't you dare bring her into this. Don't you dare use her memory to justify what you've become." Alyssa Farah Griffin, sensing the danger of the situation spiraling completely out of control, tried to intervene. "Perhaps we should take a break, let you both have a moment to know," Harry said firmly, his eyes never leaving William's face. "Let's finish this. Tell them, William, tell them how you stood by while your staff leaked stories about my wife. Tell them how you chose the palace over your own brother." William's base was flushed with anger. "You want to talk about choosing? Let's talk about how you chose Hollywood over duty, how you chose money over family, how you chose strangers over the people who loved you your entire life, loved me." Harry's voice cracked slightly. "If this is love, William, then I want nothing to do with it. If protecting me means sacrificing my wife and children, then I choose them every single time." The studio was dead silent, except for the hum of cameras capturing every word, every gesture, every moment of this unprecedented royal breakdown. Sunani host looked like she wanted to disappear, while Sarah Ann appeared genuinely concerned for both brothers. William took a deep breath, seeming to remember where he was and what was at stake. "Harry, this isn't the place for this conversation." "Then, when is?" Harry demanded. "When, William, because I've been waiting for 3 years for you to return my calls, to sit down and have an honest conversation about what happened instead. I get more leaks, more anonymous sources, more careful briefings designed to make me look unstable, while you come off as the responsible one." "Because I am the responsible one," William replied, his voice deadly quiet. "I'm the one who stayed. I'm the one who understood that being born into this family comes with obligations that don't disappear when things get difficult." Harry stepped closer to his brother. "And I'm the one who learned that family loyalty should flow both ways. I'm the one who discovered that duty to the crown doesn't have to mean sacrificing the people you love." The confrontation was reaching a breaking point, and everyone in the studio could feel it. The hosts sat frozen, knowing they were witnessing history, but unsure whether they should intervene or let it continue. The tension between the two brothers was so thick, it was almost visible. Years of hurt and anger finally spilling over in the most public way possible. William's eyes flashed with something dangerous. You want to talk about sacrifice? Harry, let's talk about sacrifice. I sacrificed my privacy, my freedom, my right to make mistakes, all so that you could have the luxury of being the spare I carried the weight of the crown. So you could be the fun one, the relatable one, the people's prince. Harry's face contorted with disbelief. The luxury, William, you think being the spare was a luxury? Do you have any idea what it's like to live your entire life as someone's backup plan, to know that your only value comes from the possibility that something might happen to your brother? The raw pain in Harry's voice seemed to catch William off guard for a moment. But he quickly recovered. At least you had choices, Harry. At least you got to serve in the military without every decision being scrutinized by Parliament. At least you got to marry for love without worrying about constitutional implications. I married for love despite you, Harry fired back, despite palace briefings against her, despite the calculated character assassination, despite watching you stand by and do nothing while they destroyed the woman I loved the same way they destroyed our mother. William's composure finally shattered completely. Stop hiding behind our mother's memory. Everything you've done has dishonored her legacy. She believed in service, in duty, in putting others before yourself. You've turned her into a weapon for your personal grievances. The accusation hit Harry like a physical blow, but instead of backing down, it seemed to fuel his anger further. Our mother believed in truth, William. She believed in protecting her children from a system that would have destroyed them. She would be horrified by what you've become, how willing you are to sacrifice anyone to protect your precious image. Sarah N. finally found her voice. Gentlemen, perhaps we should take this conversation private. Both brothers ignored her, completely locked in their confrontation, as if they were the only two people in the room. William stepped even closer to Harry, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. You want to know what she would think? She would think that one of her sons grew up to understand duty and sacrifice, while the other became a selfish, attention-seeking narcissist who can't handle not being the center of attention. The words hung in the air like a slap. Harry's face went through a series of emotions: hurt, rage, and something that looked almost like grief. When he spoke, his voice was barely controlled. A narcissist? Is that what you call someone who refuses to let his family be collateral damage in your political games? Is that what you call someone who chooses love over duty to a system that's rotten to its core? The system that made you who you are. William shot back. The system that gave you everything you've ever had. The system that you're now trying to tear down for 30 pieces of silver and a Netflix contract. Joy Bihar, unable to contain herself any longer, jumped in. This is incredibly intense. Are you saying Harry sold out his family for money? William turned to her, his royal training kicking in even in his anger. I'm saying that my brother has chosen to monetize our family's pain, our private moments, our mother's memory, all for personal gain and public sympathy. Harry's voice rose to nearly a shout. Personal gain, William. I walked away from hundreds of millions of pounds, from titles, from everything I'd ever known, because I couldn't watch them destroy my wife the way they destroyed our mother. And you call that personal gain? You walked away because you couldn't handle not being the star of the show anymore. William replied coldly, because Catherine and I were getting positive press and you couldn't stand sharing the spotlight. The mention of Catherine seemed to be the final straw for Harry. His face went white with rage. Don't you dare bring your wife into this when you know exactly what your staff did to mine. Don't you dare play innocent when you know the briefings that went out, the stories that were planted, the way she was systematically torn apart to make Catherine look better by comparison. Whoopi tried desperately to regain control. Okay, I think we need to take a step back here. But Harry was beyond hearing anyone except his brother. You want know what our mother would think, William? She would think that one of her sons learned to fight for the people he loves, while the other became exactly the kind of person she spent her life fighting against. The accusation seemed to break something in William. His face went completely cold, his voice becoming formal and clipped. If that's truly what you believe, Harry, then there's nothing left to discuss. You've made your choice, and you'll have to live with the consequences. I've been living with the consequences of your choices for years. Harry replied, his voice thick with emotion. But you're right About one thing there's nothing left to discuss. Harry turned toward the exit, then paused and looked back at his brother. One final time. I hope it was worth it, William. I hope protecting your image was worth losing your brother. William's response was barely audible. I lost my brother long before today. The words hit Harry like a physical blow. He stared at William for a long moment, something breaking in his expression. When he spoke, his voice was quiet, but filled with finality. Then I guess we're both orphans now. Harry turned to the stunned hosts, his voice returning to something resembling composure. I apologize for subjecting you to this. This wasn't what any of us signed up for today. Sunny host, still in shock, managed to say, Harry, are you okay? Harry's smile was heartbreaking in its sadness. I have to be for my family, for my real family. He looked one final time at William, who was standing frozen, his face a mask of hurt and anger, and something that might have been regret. Good bye, William. I hope you find what you're looking for. With that, Harry walked toward the studio exit, but before he reached the door, he turned back to the cameras, his voice stronger, now filled with a determination that hadn't been there before. To anyone watching, who's struggling with toxic family dynamics, who's being told that loyalty means accepting abuse, who's being made to choose between their truth and their family's comfort, I want you to know that it's okay to choose yourself. It's okay to choose the people who actually love and support you. Family isn't just about blood, it's about who shows up for you when everything falls apart. He paused, looking directly into the camera, and sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from people who would rather destroy you than lose control over you. With those final words, Prince Harry walked out of the View studio, leaving behind not just his brother, but seemingly his entire former life. Silence that followed was deafening, broken only by the sound of the studio door closing with a finality that seemed to echo through the entire space. William stood alone in the center of the studio, surrounded by shocked hosts and crew members, the weight of what had just happened settling over everyone like a heavy blanket. The future King of England looked smaller, somehow more human, more broken than anyone had ever seen him in public. Whoopi finally broke the silence, her voice subdued. We're going to take a commercial break. As the cameras stopped rolling, the magnitude of what had just been broadcast live to millions of viewers began to sink in. The royal family, the institution that had survived world wars, scandals, and centuries of change, had just been torn apart on American daytime television, and everyone knew that nothing would ever be the same again. What did you think of this explosive confrontation between the royal brothers? Do you believe Harry was justified in his actions, or did he go too far? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and make sure to subscribe for more incredible stories that you won't find anywhere.